One morning in 2026, you wake up, go to the supermarket as usual, and discover that your grocery bill has doubled in just a few months. Gas prices have soared to over $7 per gallon. Your bank account still shows the same number, but the money inside it buys less and less. You start to feel afraid. Could everything I've saved my whole life disappear just because of war and debt? This is not science fiction. This is exactly what millions of American families are facing right now. Let me tell you the story of David Thompson. He is 47 years old and lives in a quiet suburb outside Charlotte, North Carolina. David works as a logistics manager at a mid-sized manufacturing company. His wife Sarah is a nurse. They have 2 teenage children. For 20 years, they did everything right. They paid their mortgage on time, maxed out their 401k, kept a healthy emergency fund in the bank, and owned some U.S. Treasury bonds. They believed the American economy was unbreakable. Then 2026 happened. Global conflicts had been simmering for years. The war in Europe, escalating tensions in the Middle East, and naval standoffs in the South China Sea. American military spending suddenly exploded to historic levels. Supply chains for oil, semiconductors, and food imports snapped. Inflation, which the Federal Reserve had called transitory, roared back above 12%. The national debt crossed $39 trillion. For the first time in decades, interest payments on that debt became larger than the entire U.S. defense budget. David watched it unfold in real time. Gas jumped from $3.80 to $7.20 a gallon. Groceries for a family of 4 rose 38% in 6 months. His company's shipping costs tripled because of disrupted ports and soaring insurance premiums for cargo ships. Layoffs began. His 401k lost 22% of its value in real purchasing power. The treasury bonds he held paid the same nominal interest. But that interest now bought far less milk, electricity, or school supplies. The number in their bank account stayed the same, but every trip to the supermarket felt like their savings were evaporating. One evening in April 2026, David sat at the kitchen table with Sarah and said quietly, "If this keeps going, we could lose everything we worked for." And we followed all the rules. This is not a Hollywood script. This is the exact situation millions of American families are facing right now in 2026. An economy strained by prolonged global conflict, massive government borrowing, and a dollar under growing pressure. History has seen this movie before in Weimar Germany, Venezuela, Lebanon, Argentina, and Zimbabwe. Every time the same 5-stage cycle played out. Government spending far exceeds revenue, war plus social programs, massive borrowing and money creation to cover the gap. The currency quietly loses purchasing power. People lose confidence and flee to alternatives. Full collapse of trust. Today, the warning signs are flashing right here at home. So, the critical question every American must answer is, when conflict and debt push the dollar to the edge, which assets actually survive? After studying every major currency collapse of the past 100 years, only 5 assets have consistently held or even increased their real value. Here they are, explained clearly with real historical proof and what they would have meant for a family like the Thompsons. 1. Precious metals, gold and silver. These are the only true monetary insurance that no government can print or debase. In Weimar Germany in 1923, people pushed wheelbarrows of cash to buy bread, yet 1 ounce of gold still purchased the same basket of goods before, during, and after the hyperinflation. The exact same pattern repeated in Venezuela, 2018, Lebanon, 2019 to 2025, and Argentina, 2025. In 2025 to 2026, as global conflict intensified, gold surged past $4,000 per ounce, and central banks bought more gold than in any year on record. For David and Sarah, if they had kept even 10 to 15% of their savings in physical gold or a gold ETF, that portion would have preserved nearly 100% of its purchasing power instead of shrinking with the dollar. 2. Strong foreign currencies. When your own currency weakens, the simplest protection is holding someone else's stable money. In Lebanon, families who kept savings in physical U.S. dollars outside local banks walked away with almost 100% of their wealth. Those who stayed in Lebanese pounds lost 98%. In Argentina today, people are rushing to dollarize everything they can. For American families in 2026, this means diversifying a portion of cash into Swiss francs, Singapore dollars, or even small amounts of physical foreign currency. It acts as an escape hatch if the dollar comes under heavier pressure from war-driven inflation and debt. 3. Productive equities. Shares in real global companies. Not all stocks are equal, but ownership in strong, globally competitive businesses can actually benefit from a weaker dollar. Stocks represent real assets, factories, technology, land, inventory, and intellectual property. When the dollar weakens because of massive conflict spending, Companies that earn revenue in foreign currencies, exports, international operations, see those earnings become worth more dollars back home. Examples: Apple, Siemens, Nestlé, or any well-run multinational with diversified global revenue. Purely domestic U.S. companies tied only to the American consumer usually suffer. If David had shifted part of his 401k into these global leaders earlier, that portion would not only have protected his wealth, it could have grown in real terms while the broader market struggled. 4. Consumables and barter goods. When supply chains break and banking systems freeze, money itself can temporarily stop working. In post-World War II Germany, cigarettes became a temporary currency. In Venezuela and Lebanon, people traded medicine, fuel, batteries, canned food, soap, and toilet paper. These items have immediate practical value when cards are declined or shelves are empty. For a family like the Thompsons, keeping a modest 3 to 6 month reserve of tradable essentials, not hoarding, just smart preparation, would have provided critical liquidity during the worst months of disruption, when cash and credit felt useless. 5. Productive agricultural land. At the most basic level, humans always need food. Land that can grow crops or raise livestock retains fundamental value. American farmers in past economic crises often fared far better than city families because they could produce what they needed. However, land is illiquid and can be heavily taxed or regulated. The strongest form is productive farmland that generates export revenue in stable foreign currencies, or is located in jurisdictions with ironclad property rights.
Through smart diversification into these 5 assets, the Thompson family secured their future and found protection.
Be sure to subscribe and let us know which of these 5 assets are you considering.
The 2 assets that went to zero in every single collapse. 1. Government bonds and fixed income securities in the weakening currency. You become a creditor to a government spending trillions on conflict. History shows these are usually wiped out or severely devalued. Bank deposits and ordinary cash savings held only in the domestic currency inside the U.S. banking system. The number on the statement stays the same, but its real purchasing power collapses. 2. The clear lesson for every American family in 2026. David and Sarah's story is not unique. Millions of hardworking families who followed the old rules are now watching their lifetime savings lose value because of forces outside their control: war, debt, and geopolitical conflict. The old strategy of just buy stocks and bonds is no longer enough. True protection requires intelligent diversification across assets that behave differently when money itself is stressed. Gold and silver as your core monetary insurance. A portion in the world's strongest foreign currencies. Ownership in productive global companies with international revenue. A practical reserve of essential tradable goods. And, where possible, productive real assets, such as farmland in stable areas. This is not panic or doomsday thinking. It is responsible preparation based on a century of proven financial history. The pattern is clear. The math does not lie. The only question left is whether we will learn from it while there is still time. If this analysis helped you see the current risks more clearly and gave you practical steps to protect your own family, hit subscribe right now. In the comments, tell me, which of these 5 assets are you already considering or already own? I read every single comment. Stay informed, stay prepared. Protect what you've worked for. Thanks for watching.